Good morning, happy Wednesday. Let's get started. So, whenever you see a green box, that means you write. This is something that you should be aware of by now. So, yesterday you completed a first reading of an excerpt from Uprising, a work of historical fiction that explores the events at the Triangle Factory. Today you will return to the story to answer questions about the language the author uses and how this language helps the reader understand Yetta's perspective on the fire. First thing you're going to do is review the objective summary of the text, adding any additional information to the summary. Then you're going to learn about how the author's word choice impacts the meaning of a text. Next, you're going to answer the questions found in the slides as you evaluate the meaning of words and phrases in the text. And then finally, you're going to reflect on Yetta's decision at the end of the text and gather evidence to support your reflection. So if you need translated instructions, they're all right here. You click on the link and whatever language you need, it pops right up. Okay. So resources. Today we'll reread an excerpt from Uprising, a work of historical fiction by Margaret Peterson Haddix that discusses the events of the Triangle Factory fire. You will find the text right here. Click it, it comes right up. So, background information, fight or flight. Fear causes an emotional and physical response in the human body. Scientists have identified that they call it the fight or flight response. Essentially, your brain experiences fear and signals your body to act before it may even be fully aware of what is happening to you. Read this article if you are interested in learning more about this idea. Keep in mind the emotional and physical response Yetta had to the fire as you answer today's questions. So understand that this may be extra information, but reading this article will actually give you a lot of information as far as Yetta's reactions to certain things. So for the language focus, you are going to read the words, same words as yesterday, read the word in context, and then drag and drop these boxes over to the definition side. Easy. All right. Now for part 2, you're going to read the sentences and you're going to put each word into a sentence. Again, easy. You just drag the box, take the box, drag it over here, and you're done. All right. Oops. Not supposed to take this whole box. That's not supposed to happen. I'm going to take the little box. All right, I fixed it. Okay, so let's review. Read the objective summary and add any additional important details from the text. Please keep in mind, we talked about objective summary last week. An objective summary has no bias. It has no personal thoughts or opinions. It simply states the facts of what happened in the story. So you read the objective summary. If there's anything else that you remember that maybe wasn't included, you're going to type it into this green box. Okay. So author's choice and meaning. You're going to watch the video. Again, I think I've said this every time we put a video on these things, but the videos are not meant for you to just click past. You're supposed to be actually actively opening them, listening to them, and using them for the information that they give. So an author's intentional words words that they choose authors are intentional about the words that they choose to include in their writing. I've said this multiple times. No author has ever written something and was just like, oops, I accidentally did that. They're very intentional. Everything contributes to a certain meaning. These are all things that we have talked about in the past. So in reading, we need to pay attention to the specific words an author uses and ask ourselves questions such as, why did the author choose this word? What does the word or phrase make me think about or picture? How does this word or phrase impact the tone? What does this work or phrase how does this word or phrase impact my understanding of the characters or the theme of the text? Okay, so the language that is used is very important because obviously the language that is used is the things that you're reading that are giving you a certain meaning. On the next 5 slides, you'll answer questions about the meaning of words and phrases in the text. So in the first paragraph of the text, the author writes that The breezes seem to carry a slightly different message for Yetta. What message are they carrying? That's a very like mystical, magical type statement, right? The breezes seem to carry a slightly different message. Line 74 states, the water was nothing to the fire. What does this phrase tell the reader about the fire? Again, very specific word choice here. On line 84, Yetta says to herself, but we are the tinder. What does Yetta mean when she thinks this? How does this thought impact what she does next? In lines 166 through 168, Yetta speaks to Jacob, and the narrator writes that her words felt flames themselves, painful on her tongue. Again, I think there's a lot of imagery here, and I think that imagery is really creating a certain picture in the reader. So we want to make sure that we focus on that. So not only are the word choices intentional, but also the use of figurative language is intentional as well. What does this phrase tell the reader about the environment inside the shirtwaist factory? In the last line of the text, the narrator says, Yetta began clattering back up the stairs. Clattering is a word used to describe a sound made when two hard objects hit each other repeatedly and quickly. For example, during an earthquake, pots and pans might make a clattering noise as they bang into one another. What does the author's use of the word clattering tell you about Yetta's state of mind? So even the thought of like pots and pans during an earthquake gives you a certain idea as to what this really means. Today you answered questions about the author's use of language. These questions helped you further understand Yetta's actions during the fire. Let's look at the questions you will have to answer in day 3's activity. Read the questions and write your ideas in the green box. Why did Yetta climb back up the stairs to warn her fellow workers? What was her motivation? Over the past 2 activities, you answered questions that helped you understand the plot of the story and Yetta's motivations throughout the narrative. Review your response on the previous slide and write at least 3 pieces of textual evidence from the text to support your ideas. Why did Yetta climb back up the stairs to warn her fellow workers? What was her motivation? So this whole activity is meant for you to really see into the perspective of Yetta using the word choice that the author uses. Things like clattering, things like it was nothing to the fire. All of these kind of things are building up to show you something that is creating a certain feeling in the main character, who is Yetta. And then Yetta going back up the stairs, you need to understand her motivation by understanding how she feels as a character in that moment. Okay? So all of the language that is being used there is going to show you a little bit about her motivation and the things around her that motivated her. So you're going to answer that question using 3 pieces of evidence. I would like for you to explain the pieces of evidence. I think that it would be good for you. I think that it would make sense rather than you just picking 3 random pieces of evidence and having no idea why that evidence really supports the question. So gather your evidence, but also think about providing a short explanation as well. All right, so if you need additional help with this activity, you can use this slide. It doesn't include any writing in it, so it's just kind of helping you understand what literary analysis and interpretation is. But these questions are pretty straightforward, so it shouldn't be something that you are unfamiliar with. All right, so that is it for today. Use the live questions document, sign up for the Google Meet tomorrow. We have one today. And what else? What's the other thing I always say? Oh, attendance is mandatory. And yeah, that's it. 8 o'clock. All right, I will see you tomorrow.